In 1982, the Supreme Court ruled and said that school districts and boards do not have unlimited power when it comes to banning books from school libraries. 40 years later, and that same fight is back, affecting thousands of students and books today. Hi, my name is Iva Sekerovic, and the purpose of this speech is to persuade you that book bans should be opposed since they are a growing form of censorship that harms education, limits stories and voices, and limits students' ability to critical thinking. I am a credible source on this topic because as a public school student my entire life who has done a unit on book bans in high school, I know how pertinent it is to be able to easily access information, hear diverse perspectives, and be able to free and critically think. As someone who is a student, a voter, a future parent, or a future educator, you should care about this social issue because censorship in schools affects which stories students are allowed to hear, displaying that not every story is valuable enough. Today, I will refute 3 common assumptions about book bans. First, that they protect students. Second, that they are only about keeping schools age appropriate. And third, that they simply reflect parental rights. I will instead argue that book bans are a growing form of censorship that weakens educations and harms students. One claim that supporters of book bans argue is that banning books protects children from harmful material. But there is a difference between guiding students and removing ideas from everyone. When schools remove books because adults alike dislike the ideas that's in them, that's not protection, that's censorship. The Supreme Court ruled that the First Amendment limits a school board's ability to remove books from school libraries to suppress ideas, showing that book removal is not just a harmless protective act, but also a constitutional free expression issue, due to Board of Education v. Pico, 1982. Another common argument is that banned books are removed only because they are inappropriate for students. Book bans are not just about appropriation, but they often target identity, race, and raw, difficult history. Many of the books that are being challenged are targeted not just for explicit content, but because they include LGBTQ+ identities, race, racism, gender, or other areas of intersectionality that some groups dislike. The American Library Association reports that recent censorship efforts that are often justified by complaints about LGBTQIA+ themes and books covering race, racism, equity, and social justice, while PEN America found that book bans in the 2024-25 school year heavily targeted books dealing with race, gender, identity, sexuality, and history. Lastly, some argue that book bans are just parents exercising their rights. Book bans do not expand freedom, but let a few people decide for everyone else. Parents absolutely have the right to guide their own children's learning and reading, but banning a book for an entire school or district takes that choice away from every other family, student, and teacher. That's not more freedom, but less. Research also shows that censorship pressures create a chilling effect in the classroom. Lammer and Godfrey found that teachers self-censor out of fear and uncertainty, and Ginsberg and Che reported that similar pressures in a national survey of secondary English teachers. Given all of this, we must speak out against book bans, support students' freedom to read, trust educators and librarians to do their jobs, and challenge censorship when it appears in school and communities. In conclusion, book bans are not a harmless effort to protect students, but a growing form of censorship. I have shown that book bans do not truly protect students, they're not only about age appropriateness, and they do not simply represent parental rights. Instead, they silence voices, narrow education, and restrict access to ideas. The primary purpose of this speech was to persuade you to oppose book bans and support the freedom to read. When we ban books, we remove perspectives, questions, and voices. History is not based on simple fact, but who gets to tell the story, and we all know that there's at least 2 sides to every one. And once a society starts deciding which stories are valuable enough to be heard, we all lose. Thank you.